Are you thinking about turning your basement into a functional, livable space, but you worried about how much it's going to cost? Well, in this video, I'll explain to you and I'll break down every detail of what it would cost to transform your basement financially into a light-filled, functional space. By the end of this video, here's what you will learn. The remodeling costs, that's a major one. The major cost contributing factors, the average cost breakdown, hidden cost to consider, DIY versus a professional, pros and cons of a DIY versus a professional, cost saving tips, and most importantly, how you can get financing for your basement if you don't have the cash. Before diving into the numbers, it's important we figure out how you want to use your basement. Whether you want to use it for a man cave or mama cave, a kids play area, home theaters, maybe an additional bedroom or bathroom. You might want to add a wet bar, even a sauna, home gym. You might want to have a cozy place with a fireplace, maybe even a wine cellar. And sometimes you might even want to add a basement apartment. I will break down each one of these aspects of the basement so you understand how each one of these things can affect the cost of your basement. I wouldn't get too much into the cost for a basement apartment. I have another video on the channel, on this website, where you can see everything about a basement apartment, where I describe the difference between a regular finished basement, like what we're talking about here, and a basement apartment. And I also break down the cost of a basement apartment. So whether you want to do a apartment, a man cave, mama cave, it always starts with the basics. Framing, insulation, electrical, plumbing. Plumbing can be optional because you might not need a bathroom or a wet bar, but HVAC, drywall, mud and tape, paint, flooring, whether you want to use carpet, laminate, vinyl, maybe even tile or hardwood. Plus you have your doors, your baseboard, your casing, and then there's a lot of miscellaneous items that your basement would need. So I'll break this down for you so you understand outside of those standard stuff like your insulation in your basement, what can actually drive the cost up for your basement. But before we get to that, I'll give you an idea on the price just to finish your basement with no room, just framing, insulation, drywall, and your basic stuff, so you get a starting figure on how much it would cost to finish your basement. Okay, let's start with basic basement finishing. What does the finished basement mean, right? We need to start from the top. To finish your basement, it basically means your basement is unfinished, you have bare walls and ceiling and floor. To finish the space, all it requires may be insulation if you have an older home, drywall on the walls, framing, and some flooring. That would be considered a basic finished basement. Lighting and electrical, of course. So I'm going to go based off of 700 to 1,000 square foot. Yes, use 1,000 square foot as an example. If you have a 1,000 square foot basement, the average cost to do the basic finish would be determine some factors, because if you have a newer home, there's some space there where it can be cheaper. An older home can be more expensive because you might need to level your floors. You might need to do new insulation. A newer home might already have the existing R20 insulation that's required. Even you're going to need to have a building permit. So all of these factors, when you put it all together to finish the basement, you're probably looking anywhere from 60,000 all the way up to 80 to 90,000, and it can even go beyond that. And that depends on whether you want a subfloor, whether you have to level your concrete floor, whether you need to upgrade your insulation from batts insulation or you want to use a spray foam insulation, there are many factors that affect the cost to finish your basement. But I can say the minimum you should expect, I don't want to say a minimum because you might have someone who can do it for less. But within my organization and most professional companies out there, you should expect to spend minimum $60,000, and on the high side, 80, maybe 90,000, depends on the finished quality that you want. Certain elements definitely increase the cost of a finished basement. And remember, there's always good, better, and best when it comes to any type of renovation. You might have your basic finish, you might have an upper level and a luxury level. So this all would come down to your preference. But let's start from the top, and I'll give you an idea on what each of these elements in terms of your kitchen and your bathroom, what they would cost, and they would add to your overall scope of work and your budget. So let's start with the most common finished basement. Most people just want to finish the basement so they can have that additional square footage for the kids to play, or maybe a place just to unwind after a long day, right? So that's your basic finished basement. It does not require a bathroom or a kitchen or even a wet bar, right? And as I said before, that can run you anywhere from $60,000 all the way to $90,000. But let's say now you want to make a man cave or a mama cave, whatever you want to call it. The sky is the limit for this type of remodel. You can do whatever you want, but typically a man cave or a mama cave, they include special features like a wet bar. They might include a wine room. Maybe they might even include a TV watching room, maybe not a home theater, but maybe a game room. So you can expect for 1,000 square foot, you can add at least another $20,000 to $50,000 on top of your $60,000 to $90,000 to give you that man cave or mama cave that you want. If you want to add a kids play area, that can add maybe $10,000 or maybe nothing. Depends on if you want any type of built-in and cabinetry for the kids to store their stuff, and maybe they might want to have a chalkboard area where they can write. All this stuff add up, so you might end up spending $5,000 to $10,000. A home theater now, this can cost an insane amount of money. It depends on how far you want to go, the type of seats you want, the type of sound system that you want, the type of insulation that you want. All of this can run you an additional $50,000, maybe even $100,000 more just to put in a home theater in the basement. That's a big budget item. Most people don't want to do a home theater. So if you want to go crazy, expect to have $50,000, maybe $100,000 because of all the equipment that's involved in building a home theater. Additional bathroom. If you have the existing rough-ins, this can save you some money, but if you want to lay out your basement perfectly, you might want to move those rough-ins so that you can get the perfect layout that you want. So to add a bathroom, that means you have to do plumbing, underground plumbing. You might have to move the stack, move the drains. So to add a bathroom, you're looking at least $15,000 to $25,000 to add, I would say, kind of a basic bathroom to your basement. Bedroom. Bedroom is not a significant cost, but expect to spend maybe $3,000 to $5,000 to put up some walls and add a bedroom with a closet to your basement. A wet bar. There's no limit to how much you can spend on a wet bar. A wet bar can go anywhere from a small IKEA wet bar, or you can go to something extravagant where you're spending anywhere from between $5,000 to the cost of a kitchen in your main floor, right? So you're looking at between $5,000 and over $50,000 just for a wet bar. Sauna. You might want a custom sauna, or you can just buy one that's a kit. So from $3,000 to $10,000 can give you a decent sauna, and it can also be more. Let's talk home gym. Home gym, this would require, you might need some special material, you might need some exposed beams to hang a punching bag And you can also expose all of the ceiling in your gym area so that it have a more rustic feel. To add a home gym, you're going to need a special rubber on the floor to drop your weights. All of this can increase the cost of finishing your basement. So to do a home gym, anywhere, I would say from $5,000 to $10,000, you can have a home gym in your basement, maybe even less, depends on how crazy you want to go. Fireplaces. There's electrical, there's gas fireplace. For electric fireplace, can be anywhere from $1,500 for electric fireplace, or you can go all the way up to $10,000, $12,000, $15,000 if you want to get one of those long linear fireplace. So the sky's the limit. Also, a wine cellar. This is a big one. Wine cellar can dramatically increase the value of your basement, especially if you want to live there for a long time and you want to have parties and if you're a wine fanatic, you love your wine, you can build a wine cellar in your basement. Wine cellars typically starts about $30,000 and they go all the way up. The sky's the limit when it comes to wine cellar. You have to deal with the right type of cooling unit for your wine cellar, all of the wine rack, the wine bottle holders. These things can add up significantly. Maybe a basement apartment. I'm not going to dive too deep into this one because I have another video here that's everything about basement apartment, where I compare a basement apartment versus a regular finished basement and what's involved in that process. But a basement apartment, there's a lot to add to that. There's egress windows. I don't want to get into much of that. Separate entrances you might need. But check out the video on this website. It'll talk to you about everything when it comes to making a legal basement apartment. So now that I listed the different type of basement renovation you can do and what those costs can be, there are also some other contributing factors that can increase the price of your basement remodel. Subfloor. There are so many different types of subfloor that you can use. It depends on what you're going to put on top of it. Whether you're going to put vinyl, laminate, carpet, or even tiles, or maybe hardwood floors. You have to decide on your subfloor. You might have to level your concrete floor. Most basement slabs, they're not perfectly level. So depends on the type of floor that you're going to lay down and the age and your concrete quality. You might need to level the floor. You might even need to move your furnace. This is very popular. We move a lot of furnaces so that people can get the ideal location and layout for their basement. Also, you might want to add a below grade entrance to your backyard or to your side yard. That's also popular. You might even want to do soundproofing to your basement so that you can have a party and it can be quiet on your main floor. So let's talk about the subfloor first. To add, let's say we're going to go with a dry course subfloor. A dry course subfloor can run you anywhere from, depends on the size of your basement and the type of floor you use. That can add additional $3,000 to $5,000 to your budget, depends on the floor that you use. Leveling your floor. If you have to level your entire basement slab, this can be expensive. Or you might just have to do some self-leveling concrete, spot level. That is a little bit cheaper. But let's just say you have to level your entire slab and you have 1,000 square foot. To level 1,000 square foot of concrete, you're looking anywhere from, it depends on the company you use and how thick they have to go. You're looking anywhere from $6 per square foot all the way up to $10 or $13 per square foot to level your floor, or maybe even more. Depends on your situation. Moving a furnace. That also depends on where you want to move the furnace to. You might want to move your furnace to a completely different location, which means you have to get engineering done. You have to do the heat recovery and heat loss to move your furnace. So that can cost anywhere from $3,000 all the way up to $10,000 to move your furnace, maybe even more. But anywhere between that range is pretty common. You might want to add a below grade door. even if it's not an apartment, some people want to add additional entrance so that if they're partying or they have company over, they can go through the backyard. You don't have to go through the house. To add that below grade entrance, you're looking a starting point of $16,000, and this can go all the way up to $50,000. And this depends on the type of entrance that you want. You might just want a single entrance, and it also depends on how deep the entrances have to be, right? Because some entrance, we do entrance where they're like, they're 10 foot wide with stone on the side and stone steps. This becomes expensive, right? So soundproofing is not a big one that some people wanted in the basement. So if you're going to soundproof a basement, there are different ways on how you soundproof a basement. I have another video up here that talks about soundproofing your basement, but let me just touch on it briefly. Soundproof a basement have different level of soundproofing. You can go with a basic soundproofing, basically where you just do some rock salt, safe and sound in the ceiling, put up your 5/8 drywall, and that's it. But then you can go to another level where you want your basement to be ultra quiet. You might be using 2 or 3 layers of 5/8 drywall. You might be using resilient channel, genie clip, or whisper clips. It depends on what you want to use. There's so much variant out there when it comes to soundproofing a room. But I have a complete video on this website, on this channel, where you can see everything about soundproofing a room. So you can go check it out. Now, as you can see, the cost of finishing the basement varies widely. And I give you some numbers. These are just some practical numbers that you can use if you're considering finishing your basement. And this is based on the size, it's based on the type of material, it's based on the type of basement and how you're going to use your basement. So now you get a clear picture on an idea on what it can cost to finish your basement. Now let's talk about some hidden costs that can come up when it comes to finishing your basement. As we all know, no renovation come without hidden costs that can happen. So let's talk about that now. There are always hidden costs when it comes to any type of remodeling project. Let's talk about the basement specifically. When it comes to a basement, if your basement is unfinished, there are not much surprise that you would find with a basement when it's unfinished, and that's because everything is open. Your contractor, or you can do a walkthrough and you can check everything before you get a final price. But there's one thing that usually come up: waterproofing. A lot of times you don't know that your basement might have and waterproofing typically costs, if you have a couple of cracks, you might need some crack injections. This can cost maybe between $1,000 and $3,000, depends on how many. If you have to do an exterior waterproofing where you have to do maybe a small area, 1 or 2 cracks, this can also cost anywhere from $1,500 to $5,000 for a small area. But if you want to do your entire basement, this can range anywhere from $10,000 to $25,000 to waterproof your entire basement. Another common unexpected cost that you might encounter, you might want to move your existing water lines that's in your ceiling, because sometimes a contractor might come and give you a quote and they might not account for moving existing lines, because some builders run the lines on the bottom of the joist. So when it's time to build your walls, you might have to move that. You might have to move a gas line or something like that. This is typically not a huge expense, but it's an expense that you should expect nevertheless. So I recommend you go through this stuff with your chosen contractor, point out anything that you might have a question about so that you can get a complete fixed price. Because like I mentioned, a basement is a large investment and you don't want to have too many surprises, which you shouldn't have, especially when you have an unfinished basement. A basement that was previously finished though, that you have to do demolition, that's where you can find a little bit more surprises, because you might find junction boxes in the ceiling because it might have been done DIY, or someone who doesn't really understand what they're doing. That's one thing. And pretty much there's not much surprises. You know, we've done over 1,000 basements, and basements typically don't have major surprises that you cannot find out early in the process. So at this point, I want to talk to you about a DIY versus a professional remodeling company. Let's start with a professional first. By hiring a professional, the professional will take care of everything from your building permit, your design work, and all of that stuff in between. Basically, they will be providing all of the material, the labor, the subcontractors, that's including the HVAC technician, the gas fitter if you need one, plumber, electrician. All of those people will be taken care of by your company that you hire to do that work, right? So this should save you time, but it wouldn't necessarily save you money, because there is a management cost for someone to do all of that work for you. So you have to decide whether you want to have a professional do it, where you can just sit back and relax and get everything done, or you can do the DIY route. But even with a DIY, there's some aspect of the project that I recommend you use a professional for. Example, let's start with electrician. You need a licensed electrician. You're gonna need a licensed plumber. You need an HVAC technician. These are all trades that you need to hire outside of you doing it yourself. So the pro side of things, the contractor would have these people that they work with for years. These are their people, they know them, they understand how they work. On the DIY side now, you might save a little bit of money when it comes to doing it yourself, but then you have to vet every one of these trades. So instead of vetting one contractor or 3 contractors to do the entire thing, now you have to vet maybe 3 plumber, 3 electrician, 3 HVAC technician. You have to vet all of these people and get price from each one of them, and then you have to manage them. And what that means, you have to manage what they do, plus you're responsible for all of the inspection. You have to call the inspection for the plumber. The only one that's going to call their own inspection would be the electrician, right? So you need to think about that. Do you want to deal with hiring yourself, which is going to save you some money? In the old scope, this is what, let's just say you have a contractor charge you $100,000 to do your basement, right? And you want to do it yourself to save some money. You can potentially save $20,000 by doing it yourself. This is a lot of money, but then how much time do you have to do it yourself? Because one thing I learned, if you go to the Home Depot store and everyone knows your name, it means you've been there way too much, right? And this is what typically happens when it comes to homeowner trying to take on renovation by themselves. They have to go back and forth, changing stuff, exchanging, returning, learning on YouTube, and all of this would contribute to time added to your project. If you have the time, if you have some relevant skill, you can get this done yourself, but you have to decide, is it better to pay a professional to manage all of this stuff and save $20,000 or $15,000, or pay them to get it done and you can just sit back, relax, knowing that everything is going to be done professionally, right? A Either you want to use that, you can use that $15,000 or $20,000 to buy time to do something else, or you can use that $15,000 or $20,000 and you might not save that much because there's a learning curve. Then you have to, most of the times, the builder or the contractor would get better rates from these trades. When a homeowner call a plumber, he would probably charge you more than he would charge a contractor. And this is not because he's trying to rip you off. The reason why he charged the contractor less is because the contractor gave him volume. This plumber, electrician would only see you once, but then they're seeing the contractor on countless jobs a year, so they would give that little bit of a discount. So you might not end up saving any money, and plus it might take you, instead of 6 to 8 weeks, it might take 6 months to a year, even longer, to do it yourself. So consider this when deciding whether or not to use a professional or a DIY. So now that we discuss pros and cons with DIY versus a professional, now let me give you some tips on how you can save money when finishing your basement. 1, plan your renovation carefully. This is the most important one. And what this means is, know your budget and be realistic about that number, and share this number with your contractor, or let your contractor know that I only have $50,000 or $100,000, whatever that is. And these are the features and these are the fixtures and features that I want in my basement. So they can give you a fixed price contract on what you want, right? Number 2, you can also, if you're just finishing your basement as a rec room, you can forego doing a drywall ceiling. You can finish all of the interior walls and exterior walls and leave your ceiling completely open, especially if you want a rustic look where you're not worried too much about, what a ceiling look like. And you can paint that ceiling black or white, and it looks absolutely spectacular also. So there's a huge cost saving there. You can also, if you have a dry basement, you can also paint your floor. Instead of doing a subfloor and doing a laminate or vinyl flooring, you can paint the floor. That will save you a lot of money also when it comes to the basement. Lighting is important, but if you go crazy with a lot of recessed light or pot lights, this increases the cost of your basement. So instead of doing recessed light, you can do flush monks light in the area that you will be spending time. You don't have to go crazy with 30, 40 pot lights, which increase the cost of your basement. And finally, to save money in your basement, you can do it yourself. And this can save you some money. So you decide how you want to move forward with your project. Next, let's talk about how do you finance your basement remodel. You have a few options. You can maybe have the money in the bank that you save over a period of time that you put aside to do your basement, right? And you pay for it out of your pocket. Another option, you can take a second mortgage to remodel your basement. Also, you can also get a line of credit from your financial institution to do your basement. And your next option, we can help you with financing, or maybe any company that you might want to work with, they might be offering in-house financing where they can get you, whatever you need to finish your basement. So you can explore those options. If you want to learn more about financing your basement, there's a link on this page where you can apply for financing. Just click that link, fill out a quick form with how even affecting your credit, and you can get, within seconds, you can know how much you can afford to finish your basement. If you need any type of financial assistance, remember, we can guide you through the entire process. There are various financial options that we have, from loan to home equity line and line of credit, that can help you to fund your basement project. And also, if you want to know what it's going to cost to finish your basement, on this page, there's a free cost calculator where you can put in your basement square footage and select the options that you would like to see in your basement. And this calculator would give you a good idea and would be very close to what you would spend on finishing your basement. So click on the link, use the basement calculator. You can use it as much time as you want. You can play around with it. You cannot break it. That way you can decide, you know what, is a basement remodel within my budget at the current moment. Finishing your basement can add significant value to your home and also to your space and your quality of life. So with careful planning and budgeting, you can create a spectacular basement of your dreams. I hope this guide helped you to navigate the financial aspect of your basement project. And if you need any help, you can always contact us and we can help you, guide you through the entire process.